So we're here with incumbent candidate Ron Norris, and we're going to ask you 6 questions. And the first question is, what makes Estes Park the best mountain town vacation destination?
Thanks, Chris. That's an easy one. It's the same reason that I live here now. My wife and I first came here in 1970, and we said we'll retire here someday. And the reasons are the clean air, the wildlife, the trails, the tranquility, a lot of nice people here, and we just wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
I agree. Second question is, what do you envision for the long-term future of Estes Park?
I think the long-term future needs to build on the same qualities I just mentioned. We need to continue to grow and develop, but in ways that preserve those characteristics that make us special. And that includes doing more in terms of housing opportunities for young families. It includes providing opportunities for businesses that are low impact, low environmental impact businesses. And providing more amenities for our senior citizens and for our young families. And a good example is the new community center that's being worked on now that is going to help people of all ages in the community.
Okay. Third question is, what unique abilities and or skills will you bring to the town board?
Well, I'm the only engineer on the board, and I've got 4 decades of experience as a project manager working on large, complex projects, planning and budgeting and making sure they do what they're supposed to. That's been really important with the flood recovery and with all the infrastructure upgrades that we're working on now with roads and parking and internet service and that sort of thing. I think the other thing is I've been 4 years on the town board and 3 years on the planning commission. I have a good understanding of the community issues and the development code and the development issues. So I hope to bring that back for another 4 years.
Okay. When there's a great divide of opinion on any issue, how would you bring both sides together?
I start by having a belief that people of goodwill can always find a way to work together, even if they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. And if you sit down together and start working together and separate the myth from the fact and get the facts, you can find consensus. And it takes time. It takes time to see that you can find consensus. A good example is our Bear Education Task Force that the town began facilitating 3 years ago. We had people coming from all different directions about how to deal with wildlife issues. And by working together, we found some common ground, and I think the legislation we just passed, the wildlife ordinance, is going to serve us well for a long time to come. But it was really great to see all those different groups that started out arguing come together in a lot of areas.
And what economic concerns should we focus on immediately?
Housing we've already talked about. It's a great need. The people that work here need to find a way to live here and be part of the community. The other really upfront issue for me is in terms of flood recovery. We're going to get a new flood map from FEMA in the next few years, and we have to find a way to work with downtown businesses to address flood mitigation along the rivers so that they can afford to still have businesses there. Otherwise, the higher insurance rates are going to make it unaffordable for some businesses. And this means the town and the businesses working together with on projects like deepening the river channels, widening the river channels, upgrading some of the buildings along the river, building retaining walls, and finding ways to finance that.
How can living in Estes Park be more desirable and affordable for the young families here?
Again, the housing is the upfront issue, but the other issue that I hear every time I talk with the young families is the need for more and more affordable childcare, especially for families with really young children, less than 2 years old. It's a great barrier to families moving here. And I've talked with those families about the idea of setting up a family advisory board that would advise the town board and provide a better link for their needs and issues directly into the town board. I'm also beginning to talk with some of the retired families about the value of doing something like that with the retired community here, because we don't always have a direct link for their needs to the town board. So we'll be discussing those things in the near future. Well, I think I made 2 promises 4 years ago, and those were, you'll always know where I stand and why. You'll always get my best efforts. So thank you for the interview.